here. So hello everyone, welcome to game number 2 of week number 1 of our very large community team tournament. This time we're going to be featuring DeathTacticus, Hexapus, Adorfield, and Duban, Philothanic, still here with us as well.
Yes, we are on Io. As you can see by the yellow, we have expansive robots, scientists, and scavengers. And like most Io maps, there are plenty of places to found, plenty of options. So we're just going to probably wait for a long time before anyone decides to found. I imagine there's going to be some founds up here to the west of the colony where there is a bunch of iron here. There's low amounts. The ice is on the other side, so maybe we'll see some stuff on there. Duban taking the first found for, what was that, 16k debt?
I think even more than that. I think it was closer to 24,000 debt, and that's what he's going to be sitting on right now. That was a very early found to me this game, especially because I'm looking at this southeast corner. Honestly,
yes,
I see that
scientist spots over here.
Yeah, there's some good scientist stuff here. You could even be expansive here, and it'd be okay. You've got the basalt, you've got the ice, you've got aluminum.
That's what Hexapus is going to go for.
Alright, and he's grabbed a carbon tile already out of all of this. How much carbon is left on that map? There's still a fair amount, not a huge amount. Just interesting to me that he positioned there and then took this carbon rather than positioning right next to the basalt. And in fact, he wants to use, it looks like, this iron.
Yeah, he's using
what he's trying to use
for
the cave getting work done.
There's going to
Which, fair enough.
Going to ship that in so that Hexapus upgrade HQ2 is going to be a little bit slow for most scientists. Duban, with that really early start, is already at HQ2. Leading the pack, does already have $27,000 in debt, though.
Yeah, that is a lot of debt, especially on Io, where prices tend to get pretty high eventually. Difficult to make food, difficult to get water since you have to make that too. That usually leads to high life support prices and therefore a lot of debt for our expansive players in particular.
Now, one advantage that Duban does have is he is going to be the first player to get into the fuel market. Fuel on Io tends to act like, say, power or something like that on Ceres, where it has this really quick early spike, and then as everyone sort of gets their baseline production into it, it goes back down again.
Yeah, I find a lot of players these days end up just kind of leaving 2 ion collectors online almost the entire game just so they can ride out those waves where when it starts spiking, then they just sell down that stockpile, but they don't really want to scrap out of the ion collectors either because it costs carbon to put them online. That can sometimes not fit in well with everything else you're doing. It is a bit of a strange resource here. I do want to comment, since we saw those, one of the reasons I like Hexapus location compared to everybody else's is, of course, ion collectors depend on elevation, same as solar panels do. Mm-hmm. And there's no doubt that Hexapus is going to have the best ion collectors this game. Could make a difference long term.
Hexapus is deciding to go straight into power, trying to knock down his power down to nothing. He only has $12,000 worth of power, so once the long night disappears, I imagine Hexapus will pay through all of his debt with his power money and will start earning positive cash.
This is potentially a nice little advantage for DT, and for Hexapus here we've had a landslide occur.
Yes.
Which is going to reduce the production of all mines and quarries. This does not, of course, affect basalt platforms, which DT is using to get his basic resources, and it doesn't affect Hexapus very much at all, just his elemental quarry. And his aluminum mine, his steel production will be entirely unaffected.
We do have 2 expanses at HQ3, Duban and DeathTacticus. Duban is expected, as they founded so much earlier. DeathTacticus making good use of the extra money from those basalt platforms compared to, say, using just plain old iron, which is what Adorfield's doing. Adorfield's yes, okay, Adorfield does have one very high iron mine, which is hidden behind his name.
Yep.
But Hexapus and Adorfield both at HQ2.
Now, DT, very effective use of the black market so far. Look at how much power he's producing. 9 a second, $200 power. Almost doesn't matter how much debt you have, you're going to get rid of it quickly. And suddenly, DT's setting himself in a position to try to run away with this game. Okay, he had one of the geos taken away from him, but he had also already taken another one away from Adorfield. He had set up a goon squad to protect his nuclear plants. That is now gone. He's refreshed it. And he's just forcing so much black market against him just to keep him from running away with this game. Already more cash than anyone else, no debt, equal upgrades with Duban. DT's in a great spot here.
Yeah, Duban's already in C debt. HQ3, 87,000. Not a place you want to be, especially with this negative 134 food debt per second. It is going down just a little bit with that plus 4.2 power for Duban. But going to definitely need to keep an eye on that as the game progresses.
Yeah, slowdown strike finally lands on DT's nuclear plants, but the damage has already been done. Up at HQ4, 1 or 2 ahead of everyone else this game, still has $20,000 in the bank. DT is still in an absolutely fantastic spot, but now we should start seeing his plan for the late game, and of course, slowdown strikes and power surges still available for other people to try and slow him down.
I would like to point out right now that while the Offworld prices still haven't crept up that high, 460 is the highest launch, it only cost DT 60k to build a space elevator.
That is potentially an option for him this game. Just space elevators are not very expensive at all most of the time, and especially not if you go ahead and pick up that transparent aluminum patent. Be curious to see if anybody decides to go for something like that this time around.
If I'm Hexapus, that's definitely something I would be considering as a potential way to get back into this game with the patent advantage that the scientist has. 1 HQ behind DeathTacticus and Duban. Adorfield also needs to figure out something to get themselves back in this game. Going into food is a good option. There is no other food production on the map right now, so potentially that's a way for Adorfield to claw back into contention.
Yeah, definitely making some money from those right now. That said, there's not much water production on the map either. I do believe we just have Hexapus working away on that, and so this is a lot of water consumption going on compared to the production, and that means these farms aren't going to stay online forever. He's going to need to watch carefully for when he needs to get into some water himself to stabilize these things, or he's just going to need to be ready to scrap out of the food.
Good network virus on DeathTacticus chemical refineries, each of them losing $48 and climbing a second.
Yeah, not that bad for him because he does have a massive stockpile of fuel, so it's not actually losing near as much money as it appears, but I'm pretty sure he would like to have something besides a chemical refinery on those tiles right about now.
Yes. Now the one thing about Adorfield is, while I do like to move into farms without any water, and like you're saying about the water price, 4 seems a bit excessive.
Yeah,
I'd have
is
only
a lot.
gone into 3 myself. Now DeathTacticus is going to try and take out Duban while we've been talking about Adorfield. Adorfield's going to get in on it. Duban not able to defend themselves, in too much debt, and they're going to be first taken out in the game. DeathTacticus loves his early majority buys.
Oh, if he smells blood, he will take you down. Period. That's the end of it. He will be going for those early kills. You always need to watch out for that. And Duban making that classic mistake of upgrading without checking your opponent's stockpiles to make sure you can get away with it. And usually that's more of an issue on HQ5, but with somebody like DT in the game and the lead he got off of power, you really got to be careful of it the whole way through.
Yep. And unlike on some other early majority buys, DT has the production to back it up and is going to immediately into a second majority buy. Hexapus, no way to defend themselves. It's just going to be Adorfield versus DeathTacticus right now, and frankly, I don't see any way for Adorfield to catch up.
No, I really don't either, honestly. It's going to be 2 subsidiaries to to basically none. I mean, I guess you could count. DT only has 10 stock total in other players, but you can still see that that's left him right now with twice the price of Adorfield. He's already up an upgrade level. There is quite literally no edge for Adorfield to exploit to stay in this particular game. On top of that, he's been selling down food this whole time. Maybe if we had seen, I would have really liked to see, instead of 4 farms, 3 farms plus a hacker array. I think that could have really gotten some work done this game.
Yeah, keep the water price a little bit lower with that hacker array, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can even, you're going to want to be shorting most of the time, but there is even the option at that point of, well, surplusing the water just to keep it a little more in check, keep it away from your opponents, make sure they're not making too much money off of it.
Of course.
But none of that been happening this time around.
2 of your opponents let themselves get majority bought. There's really not much you can do other than try and join in. Adorfield did try with Duban, but unfortunately just didn't have enough money.
The argument that I would make here is DT would have been he would have struggled quite a bit more for that second majority buyout if Adorfield hadn't helped out with the first one, I think.
Yes.
And so that potentially was a bit of a questionable move. It's nice when you're kind of number 2 and you're close behind number 1. All right, both of you just together take out number 4 because he's fallen really far behind, and then you're still on basically even footing. You didn't let your opponent get that advantage. But when you're way behind, as was the case here where DT had a massive lead, oftentimes the best you can hope for is that the other person fights back as the best that they can, and then you just focus on building yourself up so you can 2v1 as long as both of you get to survive. And DT, not often we see an expansive at HQ level 4 get a majority buyout in his entire competition, but that's what we've got this time around.
Yeah, a little bit more of a one-sided game than I had anticipated with all the players that we have on here. Now, the one thing I have to wonder is if this is one of the matches that DeathTacticus team had the map seed for. But DeathTacticus is saying, quite simple: Pleasure Dome, power money, fuel.
Yeah.
And
power money, of course, not relevant for the later buyouts, but it was definitely the thing that propelled him to that huge lead initially.
Yeah, we can go look at DeathTacticus production. 114k in sold for power, 136 for fuel, 71 in carbon, and that's about it. Yeah,
a lot of it was that initial power money coming on through. The carbon was surprisingly effective, though, and Chem's not bad at 51, obviously. Even a little bit of glass selling going on in there. It was just that while power was kind of the standout that really got him way into the lead, everything from there was more just being in the right markets at the right time and not any one thing that really...
using the black market to make sure that he was in the right market the most. 12 black market purchases for DeathTacticus. The next high is Hexapus at 7.
Yeah. And Adorfield with only 2. That's definitely not where you want to be in that
holograms
game.
For DT. Where were those holograms?
A couple of those were the solar panels that weren't actually solar panels. They were glass kills. Yes. That's where his glass money came from. The other one, I believe, was on the Pleasure Dome, which also looked like a solar panel.
Well, that's one way to hide how much power you're producing when power is high.
Yeah, that's true. I love, though, that DT, he's one of the few players that's confident enough to just go ahead and clean up a game with majority buys in D levels of debt like that, because if you fail at your majority buys and you're taking on that much debt, you're going to really struggle to stay in the game, because once those interest ticks start coming, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. But this time around, not a problem, as it turned out.
Nope. No, it has. I've been in games in the past with DeathTacticus tournament games. Well, maybe the last failed majority buy that I recall from DeathTacticus, where he majority bought me, and I was reasonably certain that he wasn't going to majority buy me, because immediately after that, Polina and I don't remember who the fourth player was. Majority bought him together.
Fantastic. That's always, while there's some vindication in that, you always get a little upset because it's like, but if you killed us both, why would you do that?
But since that was like maybe 3 FFA tournaments ago, 2 FFA tournaments ago, I don't think I've seen DT make that mistake since in a tournament game.